Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep, really getting into the foundational fighting ideas of Bruce Lee, way before he was the global icon.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, listener, someone who wants knowledge fast and deep without getting bogged down,
Yeah,
this is for you. We've pulled out the surprising bits, the crucial stuff.
exactly. And our focus today is pretty specific. It's excerpts from the original Jun Fan Gong Fu Wing Chun Do. It's by Sibok François Arambel, with Claude Course collaborating.
Okay.
Arambel is the Wing Chun Do rep in France, and importantly, he was certified, actually, by James DeMile.
James DeMile. Bruce Lee's student in Seattle, right?
That's the one, a direct student from those early days.
Gotcha. So our mission today is clear. Understand Bruce Lee's early fighting philosophy. Jun Fan Gong Fu, that's what it was called.
Yeah, Jun Fan Gong Fu. And how DeMile, based on his training with Lee, interpreted it and taught it as Wing Chun Do.
So this is the foundation, before Jeet Kune Do really emerged.
Precisely. The roots, not the branches yet.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Bruce Lee's Seattle beginnings. The source has these really interesting photos. Bruce with James DeMile, Jesse Glover, in Seattle.
Yeah, I saw those.
It shows them at local fairs, even in traditional gear. And it notes he wasn't even called Sifu back then.
Right. It paints a picture of that early phase, doesn't it? Still finding his footing, maybe, in how to present this art in America.
And DeMile's perspective is key here. He saw Wing Chun Do as his take on Bruce's principles from, late 59, early 60s?
Exactly that period. And the focus was very much on, street practicality. Trapping, closing the gap fast, these Chisao techniques, and his early ideas on speed and power. It wasn't theoretical stuff.
And it's interesting because the source points out Bruce quickly noticed Western fighters were different.
Yeah, bigger often, right. And maybe more straightforwardly aggressive than perhaps some he'd trained with back in Hong Kong.
So this forced him to adapt Wing Chun. It wasn't just copy-paste.
Not at all. That adaptability, you see it right there, early on. He started modifying things like Chisao, sticking hands.
The sensitivity drill.
Yeah, that one. And he developed these really dynamic ways to close the gaps, specifically thinking about how to deal with boxers or just, guys on the street.
That early experimentation, it's a real aha moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
It shows his mindset from the start.
Definitely.
Which kind of leads to the next point.
Mhm.
Why did he change things later? What he taught, I mean.
Well, according to DeMile's view, a big part of it was fear, almost.
Fear. Bruce Lee.
Fear of being beaten. DeMile felt Bruce worried that if he taught his core, most effective stuff too openly, someone could master it, maybe even improve it, and then use it against him.
Wow. Okay, that's quite something.
And there's a quote in the source. DeMile apparently asked him why things like applied Biujee, the finger thrusts, and centerline control, spring energy, those basics, were missing from later teaching.
And Bruce said,
His response was blunt, something like, why should I teach someone to do to me what I was trying to do to others?
oof, direct.
Very.
That really paints a picture. Strategic, protective even.
But the source also stresses Bruce could do all that early stuff so well because his foundation was incredibly strong.
Right.
The argument is, without that deep base, the later techniques, maybe they looked good, but they were incomplete somehow.
So the foundation was always there for him, even if he didn't explicitly teach every single piece later.
That seems to be DeMile's and Arambel's perspective.
Yeah.
Mastery allows you to move beyond, but the base has to be solid.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Trapping. This is always a hot topic.
Always.
DeMile strongly disagreed with the idea you sometimes hear that trapping just doesn't work against a really aggressive fighter.
Right, he completely rejected that. His view was, if it seems ineffective in some later versions of Bruce's art,
Yeah.
it's not the trapping concept itself that's flawed. It's because key elements, crucial supporting principles, were missing in how it was being taught or applied.
So like pieces of the puzzle were left out.
Exactly. He apparently showed some of these critical techniques, the ones that made Bruce's early stuff work to JKD instructors later on.
Yeah.
They were amazed, apparently, hadn't seen those specific foundational aspects that made the trapping viable.
So it's about the whole system, not just one isolated technique.
Precisely. You can't just pull one thing out and expect it to work without the context, the foundation that supports it.
Makes sense. So how did this Wing Chun Do DeMile's interpretation spread?
Well, DeMile apparently got a lot of satisfaction developing it with students from all sorts of martial arts backgrounds.
Oh, interesting. Not just Wing Chun people.
No, all kinds. And they recognize the simplicity, the efficiency, the sheer practicality of Bruce's early concepts.
That speaks volumes, doesn't
Yeah.
it? People from different styles see the value.
It does. It suggests there's something fundamentally sound there.
And this leads us to François Arambel, the author.
Yeah.
He trained with DeMile.
Extensively, yeah. And now he's teaching Chun Do in France, basically introducing these original Bruce Lee concepts there. It's a direct lineage.
A lineage back to Seattle. What about Arambel's own story? How did he get into this?
It's quite a journey. His first spark was seeing a very special strike, as he put it, at a place called John Beale's Club. DeMile sometimes showed up there.
This one move caught his eye.
Apparently so. Enough to plant a seed. Then he moved away from Seattle, but kept in touch with someone from the club. Later, turns out DeMile opened a club near where Arambel was working. He jumped right in, started training.
And he really committed.
Oh, yeah. Became a full-time instructor, traveled with DeMile promoting Wing Chun Do, ran the instructor program, and he connected with those really early students of Bruce Lee, Jesse Glover, Taki Kimura, Ed Hart.
The original Seattle guys.
The originals. Arambel calls himself a pilgrim, trying to understand and preserve that original Jun Fan Gong Fu.
A pilgrim. That says a lot about his dedication. He must have gotten some unique insights from those guys.
Absolutely. He says meeting them profoundly impacted his life and his whole fighting philosophy.
And what's his core philosophy?
Effectiveness.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. Techniques have to work in real situations, not just look good, not just be traditional.
Right.
He uses examples like, would this work against a big Maori guy? Or a street fighter, maybe, with a knife? Not just in the dojo.
Testing it against reality.
Yeah.
That's very Bruce Lee-esque itself.
It really is. That pragmatism was there from the start.
The source talks about the fatal weapon of curiosity. Arambel thinks this was a key strength of Bruce Lee's.
And it leads into a great anecdote about DeMile's initial skepticism.
Ah, the boxing story.
That's the one. DeMile, being a former heavyweight boxing champ, saw Bruce demonstrate something and basically said, that won't work against a boxer.
Bold statement to make to Bruce Lee.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Bruce apparently just calmly asked, are you a boxer?
Right.
DeMile says yes, probably quite confidently. Bruce just says, okay, get in your stance.
And then
The next 10 seconds, according to the account, were humbling for DeMile. He couldn't land anything, couldn't defend. Bruce used Fooksao.
Fooksao.
Yeah, a specific technique to just completely control DeMile's movements effortlessly.
Wow.
Arambel stresses that understanding this technique is vital to grasping Bruce's early Gung Fu, its natural forward energy flow.
And he mentions this technique isn't well known even in some later JKD circles.
That's what the source says, which is fascinating, isn't it? A potentially key element that might have gotten lost or overlooked.
It really shows the effectiveness against different styles right from the beginning.
Absolutely. Even against a skilled boxer with power.
This ties right into effectiveness in actual combat. Arambel observed something interesting at seminars, right?
Yeah, he noticed that even people who were champions at kata or taolu, the forms, when it came to free sparring, actual combat simulation, they often just ditched their style.
Really? What did they do?
Reverted to basic, sometimes clumsy boxing. The complex stuff just vanished under pressure.
That's telling. All that training.
It is. Bruce Lee had an analogy for this. He said traditional techniques often failed, like snow melting in the sun, when tested for real.
Like his challenge to boxers, yeah.
Exactly. And he made that pretty controversial statement.
The 98% one.
Yeah. 98% of what you learn in traditional art is ineffective in reality. Strong words.
Very. But it highlights his focus. Practicality above all.
And the source emphasizes that the Wing Chun Do Jun Fan Gong Fu, taught by DeMile and Arambel, is meant to be consistent. Same effectiveness in training and in a real fight.
That's what listeners want, right? Practical knowledge that works, effectiveness overlooking fancy.
Definitely. Survival, not aesthetics.
Okay, so let's get to the core of Jun Fan Lee,
Yeah.
Bruce Lee's Chinese name, his philosophy. Explorer, nonconformist.
A core idea was return to the source. Find the simplest, most direct way.
Which meant?
Teaching fewer techniques but drilling them relentlessly. Mastery over quantity. Become really good with a few essential tools.
Not just knowing a million moves superficially.
Exactly. And it extended to movement, too. natural, instinctive reactions. He compared Gung Fu to riding a bike. Once you get it, it's ingrained, almost unconscious. And he was always questioning things, combat precepts, the authority of so-called experts. That's why he broke from some traditional Wing Chun figures. He had to find his own way.
That critical thinking was key. Okay, so the source breaks Jun Fan Gong Fu down into 4 fundamental concepts.
That's right. Energy, fluidity, speed, and power.
And mastering these comes before specific techniques.
Absolutely crucial, according to the text. They're the bedrock everything else is built on.
All right, let's take them one by one. Energy. It mentions 3 principles.
Yes. First one. Symmetrical convergence from shoulders to the body's center.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
Well, think about your stance. If you're turned too much sideways and someone pushes or pulls you, you tend to follow the line of your shoulders, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
But if you face them more directly, squared up, you're more stable, your energy goes straight back or forward. Being too turned, even if it feels protective, can misdirect your own attacking energy.
I see. The alignment matters for directing force.
Exactly. And there's an exercise described. Have someone grab your forearm and pull. If you're too turned, you get pulled off balance easier. Bruce apparently used this demo a lot.
Simple, but effective way to show it. What's the second principle of energy?
Energy follows the direction of the fingers. Sounds subtle, maybe.
A little, yeah.
But think about this exercise. Push against your partner's blocking arm, but point your fingers down. If they suddenly move their arm away...
Your energy goes down.
Right. Now do it again, but point your fingers forward, like aiming for their throat. They move their arm.
And your energy projects forward. Got it. Small detail. Big difference in where the force goes.
Precisely. And the third principle. 4 weak points for 1 strong energy.
Okay, sounds intriguing.
It's about disrupting balance. Like if someone presses hard on your hand at solar plexus level, a quick, small shift of your hand sideways can often throw their energy off, make them unstable.
So you're finding their weak points, their instability, and using your focused energy to exploit that.
Yeah. It's not about overpowering them directly, but disrupting their structure. The source even links it to Aikido concepts using the opponent's energy, and it applies in close quarters, even wrestling.
Fascinating. Okay, next concept. Fluidity.
Fluidity is about constant attack. Even if you hit an obstacle, you keep flowing.
How?
The key mechanics mentioned are elbow rotation and mastering the closed Bijong stance. If your arm gets blocked, the elbow's mobility lets it snap right back into another attack.
Instead of getting stiff and stuck.
Exactly. Rigidity makes you lose balance when parried. Fluidity uses techniques like Lopsao, Fooksao, Biujee to keep the pressure on, avoiding getting purely defensive.
Constant forward pressure, essentially.
That's the idea. Okay, speed. This is classic Bruce Lee territory.
How did he define it? Not just moving fast, right?
Yep. No, he called pure speed the startle, that instant, uncontrolled reaction you have to something sudden.
Like kids playing tag.
Yeah, exactly. They develop speed unconsciously. The advice is practice reflex without overthinking. Conscious thought slows you down.
Relax, don't tense up.
Crucial. Relaxation gives you more speed, more reach. And the big thing is non-telegraphed speed. No warning signs for the opponent.
That's central to Jun Fan Gong Fu's speed concept.
Very central. And it ties into explosive speed. Without that sudden burst, the art becomes predictable, easily countered.
So what makes up that explosiveness?
The source lists. The startle reflex, whiplash convergence, like cracking a whip with your energy. Dark side, which is about the pure intent to attack, and this really interesting principle, hand preceding the body.
Hand precedes the body. Usually the body moves first, right?
That's the conventional way, yeah. But here, the hand initiates the attack before major body movement. It's novel.
How do you train that?
There's an exercise called the quick draw. You face a partner at a very specific distance, arm's length, plus finger length, plus 5 centimeters.
Okay, very precise.
And you try to touch their chest before they can block. The key is the hand has to move first. No leaning in or shifting weight beforehand.
Requires intense focus, I bet.
Absolutely. Hand first, then everything else follows explosively.
Got it. Now, stances. Bijong. There were 2.
Yes. Open Bijong and closed Bijong. Open is for the security zone outside immediate danger range.
How far is that?
Depends on the opponent, the environment, but roughly their leg reach plus about 5 centimeter buffer.
And the open stance itself?
It's meant to look non-threatening. Communicative, mediating, hands open, peaceful demeanor, maximizing surprise if you do need to attack.
Way back.
Slightly back, maybe 70-30 on the rear leg, hands open. DeMile adapted this, noting its value. Even subtle hand gestures matter. De-escalate or provoke.
Foot position.
Natural, slightly open, non-aggressive, ready to spring from your preferred side.
And the best attack from there.
A sudden explosive lunge close. We'll get to movements maybe, but the main benefit is surprise, especially against bigger guys.
Right. Okay. Closed Bijong.
Yeah.
This is when things get serious.
Yeah. Threatening aggressor, they're advancing, you're in the danger zone, maybe worried about hidden weapons.
But it's not static.
Definitely not. It's an action of combat engagement. Hands are ready to attack, not just passively guard. Think of that early photo of Bruce intercepting an attack in this stance.
Okay, the technique.
Guard stance, lean back slightly, maybe 60-40 weight on the rear leg, that's the engine for forward bursts. Slight forward torso lean for structure.
Front foot.
Turned inward slightly, acts like a brake for control. Arms aren't locked out, need mobility. Hands open, toward the target, within shoulder width, near the center line.
Key is keeping foot spacing consistent during moves. And shoulders square.
Yes, constant base width and shoulders always aligned with the opponent's center line. Crucial for structure and power delivery.
All right, movements. Forward and backward first.
Longitudinal axis, forward. Rear leg is the engine, pushes. Front leg releases the brake. Front foot lands, controls distance.
Backward is the reverse.
Pretty much. Front foot pushes back, rear leg lands, and immediately becomes the engine again, ready to go forward. Practice with timing helps measure progress.
And Bruce's quote about the abdomen being the center of gravity, the source of energy.
Right, ties it all together. Power comes from the core.
Sideways movement, lateral axis.
Still applying centerline theory, keep shoulders square to the target, maintain that constant foot opening, keep the stance compact.
Exercises mentioned.
Series A and B, starting left to right guard. Focuses on recovering the center line, orienting the shoulders correctly to regain balance and strike effectively. It's about handling attacks from the sides.
Makes sense. Finally, turning to the side.
Speed rule applies again here. Hands move first towards the attack.
Before you even turn.
Before you fully pivot, yes. Body follows the hands. The whole turn needs to be explosive blind. Ideally, no telegraphing, total surprise.
And it includes a step back.
Usually, yeah. Step back to safety while turning and countering. Speed is everything. Hand leads, body follows.
Okay. So, wrapping this deep dive up, what are the big takeaways?
We've seen Bruce Lee's early focus on, practical street effectiveness in Seattle, his willingness to adapt Wing Chun right away, the absolute importance of those core concepts, energy, fluidity, speed before anything else.
And the foundational understanding of stances and movement in Jun Fan Gong Fu or Wing Chun Do as DeMile taught it.
Right, it's that base layer.
So for the listener, they've now got this condensed but detailed look at Bruce Lee's initial thinking. A unique angle on where he started from.
Exactly. It provides context for everything that came later.
Which leads to our final thought. Considering these foundational Jun Fan Gong Fu principles, how do they relate to the later, more famous Jeet Kune Do?
Yeah, and what might the absence or the modification of some of these early concepts imply about how JKD evolved?
It makes you think, doesn't it? About that balance between mastering the fundamentals and then innovating, adapting as you go higher. In any skill, really.
A great question to ponder. Where does foundation end and evolution begin? Or do they always intertwine?
Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.